Okay, guys, we're going to get started. This is Tracy DeMario, and I am the Son of Bliss Superstar Director. So I'm super excited that all of you guys have made time today to join me. And again, I know several of you are multitasking, so that's all good. And if you have questions, just jot them down, and towards the end, I will be happy to address any of them. So we're going to get started. This is a new training that we started. We're going to have 3 different ones we're going to be offering the Son of Bliss group. So this will be a perfect one for those of you that have team members that promote to lead. This is one of the trainings you're going to want them to participate in, and we're going to try to run it at least once a month during the day, and at least once a month offer it at an evening time as well. That way we can hit the most of best worlds for everybody involved. So that's the purpose of this training. If you are above a lead, then that's fine too. I think it's really important as leaders that you know what our trainings consist of, so you know what you need to be referring your team members to and how it benefits them as well. So with that, we're going to move on here. Let's see if I can figure out how to make it go. Oh, good deal. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to start developing new leaders. And yes, that means as soon as you hit lead consultant, that should be one of your goals. And how we do that, there's several things that we need to be doing, one of which is setting up coaching calls with your team members. Now, when we say coaching calls, I know for some, you're like, well, what do you mean coaching calls? I just promoted to lead. I don't know a lot. And the reality is you don't have to know everything. Part of the purpose of a coaching call is just for accountability and to let them know that you are working your business and wanting to work the business with them. What I like to do is whenever I have someone who's going to promote, or even that's struggling in my downline, is I'll recommend let's set up a coaching call. I tell them that they need to block off approximately 20 minutes and to send me 2 of the areas which they find that they're struggling with the most. Because the reality is in 20 minutes that we're only going to probably be able to cover 2 topics that they're struggling with. Once they've told me, then I go and I do some homework. And that's where I'm going to go into the training center. I'm going to go with lots of documents that I've used in the past. I'm going to go through some of the systems that I have currently or that I know about that are going to help them in the areas that they're struggling with. These coaching calls, you do need to make it very clear. This is not where you check in on how their kids are doing or what they're doing next week or how it was at the pool. These are specific coaching calls to address the areas or the topics that they feel they want to grow in or need additional assistance and support in. So you do want to keep them very focused and to the point. I like to end them with usually 1 or 2 tasks, basically like homework, giving them things that they can be working on or they need to do to report back to me. Once they've got those done, then we can then set up another coaching call if that's necessary, or based on how that goes, what we decide to do from there. There are some team members you're going to have that are going to want to visit with you on a regular basis, and there's others that you're rarely going to hear from. And sadly, as we'll discuss a little later, there will be some that will join the witness protection program and you'll probably never hear from again. And again, we'll deal with that later. But it's important from the get-go that you make yourself available and that they know they do have a support team. You want to discuss their next goal and promotion. You do not have to fully understand everything there is to know about the compensation plan. In fact, if you started asking me too many questions and got too complicated, I assure you I could get confused. So it does not mean you have to have a full understanding of that. Break it down. Go step by step. As a new team member or a certified consultant, you just want to focus on what they need to do next. So as a new team member, their goals obviously are going to be shooting star. It's going to be talking about the sensational start levels and what it means to become a certified consultant. So just focus on 1 step at a time so that it's not overwhelming and they don't feel like they can't possibly achieve success in the business. You want to create action steps to accomplish this, both daily, weekly, and monthly. And for some of you, if you have not already, and we'll refer to this later in the references or the resources, there are some actual documents that already exist in our workstation that you can utilize to help you with this, that I would highly recommend you get in the habit and implement those now. And again, I'll tell you where you can locate those if you're not currently using those. And you want to reiterate consistency. if people have joined the business and they want to find success, the reality is they have to be consistent in their business. And that is something that I know many struggle with. We're all going to have distractions. We're all going to have things that are going to come up with in life. And it's really important that they understand. In fact, I just posted a quote today. Dedication doesn't have an off season. And this is very true. If you find yourself or your team members taking off a month or two, that is going to come back and it's going to show up in the coming 2 to 3 months, because you're not going to have those follow-up calls. You're not going to have those, bookings from parties. It's all a trickle-down effect. So even if it just means your goal or their goal, because they have crazy things happening over the next 2 months, is just to be active, that's a goal, and that's going to keep them in the game, and that's still going to be consistent. So it's really important that you have those conversations and help them to understand why we don't take the summer off. We don't take the J months off. We have to find a way to work our business consistently. We want to keep them engaged, and this is really important. If you live local, then I highly recommend you and your team members hopping in the vehicle together, meeting up, whatever that might mean, and getting to the local meetings. If you do not live local, we offer different online trainings. Of course, corporate does. I really think it's important that you make them understand the importance of training. Even when I see corporate is doing the training on host coaching, I still want to hear what they have to say, because the reality is things are constantly changing. There's always new ideas. There's always new ways to do things, and we never know it all, and we don't ever have the answers. And lots of times there's room for improvement, or if you're like me, I forget. And I'm like, I used to do that. I don't know why I stopped, but I need to get back to doing A, B, or C. So it's really important as their leader that you're sending them text reminders, Facebook reminders, whatever you feel is the best form of communication for you and your team, and that you show up. As a leader, you do have a responsibility to lead them. And many, you will find, are going to follow their leader. I can tell you over my past time, when leaders come to the meetings, for example, they have tables full of team members in most cases. When they quit coming, their team quits coming. Should it be like that? Probably no. That wouldn't affect me. However, I can tell you with 100% certainty, if you're not showing up, you're not going to the trainings, they're going to follow your lead. If you're not getting bookings, if you're not sponsoring people, somehow they magically know, and it doesn't happen for them either. So you need to be sure you're leading in all areas, and training is very important. Send book recommendations. I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but we have an album in the Scented Bliss main group, and it actually has book recommendations. So, there's a lot of people who still learn that way and still like to read. Then why shouldn't they be reading something that can help them with their business? So give them recommendations on different ways they can be engaged, in case they're not someone that wants to or can go to a local meeting or a corporate meeting, or they just don't prefer the online version. Old school is not bad school. So send them some book recommendations to keep them engaged. And of course, we now have our Bliss Bootcamp. Some of you may have attended our very first one. We held it in June at our local meeting, and that was like our first kickoff, so we could kind of work out and tweak it and get some input and some feedback to make it better. And next week, we will be holding our first live version. The Bliss Bootcamp is for consultants that have completed the new consultant checklist, and that's basically the only requirement. From that time on, everybody, we will hope, will go through this boot camp. And so when you have new team members, that is something you want to make a priority to get them involved in. And we hope to offer that again at least once a month to capture everyone. So that's a really biggie. We're also going to be starting probably in August or September a leader boot camp. And that'll be specifically more in-depth training for consultants that are lead or above. Many of you hopefully are taking advantage of the Sell with Maven app. If not, you need to check it out. It is free trial for 30 days. After that, there's a free basic version, or you can upgrade to the pro version, which is $4.99 or $7.99 a month. And I can tell you, whether you have the free version or the paid version, if you are actively engaging with this app, it will make follow-up so much easier for you. As veteran consultants, you need to be using it, and it will be even a better benefit to your newer consultants that start using it. So it's a really, really great thing to get them going with and help them set up their social media platforms with Maven, because it interacts really, really well. Especially if you're like me and I struggle with sometimes with, well, I don't know what to message them. I don't know what to call and say. Maven will actually give you sample text scripts. You can use them as is. You can tweak them. So it's going to be great for new consultants all the way up. So again, if you haven't got that app and you're not working with it, I definitely recommend you do so, and make sure you're going through that with your team members and getting them involved. Accountability. As we talked about, some need more than others. And as it's needed, you need to determine who those people are. Some will let you know, some will not. Regardless, you need to be checking in with your team. One of the most time-consuming but best things I ever did was have my entire team programmed in my phone. That works great for me, because regardless of where I am, I always have opportunities where I have extra time and I can check in via chat or text messages with team members. The last week of every month, this is a critical time. This is when you really need to be doing both recognition, and you also need to be paying attention to consultants who maybe are close to their next opportunity for both promotion or being recognized. And we're going to discuss some reports here in just a few minutes of some things. But that's really, really a big thing that recognition means a lot. And everybody has different love languages, but I have yet to meet anyone that doesn't appreciate it when someone notices them and gives them a shout out. So this is something I definitely want to make sure you all come up with a system and make it a priority to do. And again, maybe that's text messaging, maybe that's shouting out on Facebook, maybe that's shouting out in the Facebook group, whatever that might mean to you. The point is just to do some form of recognition and checking in with your team members. The reality is, we didn't join this business to make money for other people. However, we all have an upline and we all have a downline. So that really is part of the deal. Whether we like it or we don't like it, we may like some of them, we may not. It really is irrelevant. But when you're a leader and you have team members, if they don't hear from you and they get in their head that all you want from them is their piece of the pie or their commission, you're going to have a lot of issues going forward, and you're probably going to have a hard time keeping team members. So you need to recognize them, and not only for sales, but also for their input in groups, their comments when they, are paying attention, when they show up to trainings. There's always reasons to recognize people. Okay, reports. This is something that I would highly encourage you guys to all make a priority. The first of every month, one of the first reports I run is my will cancel report. If you're not familiar with how to run this report, if you go to your Workstation under Business Resources and then Workstation Tips, there is a step-by-step document that will tell you how to run your will cancel report. And for some of you, if you have one team member, then clearly, it's not going to be that exciting or difficult. But as your team grows, it can be. So the first thing I do is I run my will cancel report. I want to get a hold of these individuals and make sure they know that they're up to cancel. And secondly, reach out to them in hopes of helping them determine a plan to stay active. So that should be one of your first priorities. The other two that you can run and that you can access in the Performance tab of your Workstation is the Sensational Start and Shooting Star. So you do want to track these individuals to see how close they are, make sure, of course, they have an understanding of what that even means, and how close they are and what their deadline is for making those things happen. Lifetime PRV, this is another great way to give shout outs. So basically, you just need to add a column when you're running your report. You would add the lifetime PRV column. That way you can go through and you can track and see who's close to hitting another milestone. And even if it's their first 1,000 PRV, if it's 2,000 PRV, you know, that's still a very big deal to consultants when they're starting out. It doesn't have to be just when they hit 10,000 or 20,000. So make sure you're paying attention and you use that opportunity to give them a shout out. Annual sales and annual mentor. They need to be aware, what are these? They can find additional information, of course, in the consultant guide. However, as we get closer throughout the year, I like to go through and I like to check when we're a month or two out to see who is close to annual sales or annual mentor so that they can continue to work on reaching that goal. And then birthday and anniversary. I think it's really important. Again, these are super simple and super easy reports you can run from both your performance tab, or if you've not checked out the team tab, you can also do that in some of these other reports from the team tab as well. And give them a shout out for their birthday and their Sensi anniversary. I do want to comment as well when it comes to will cancel if your team is growing. Another thing that we recommend is finding a way to track consultants that do cancel. And that can mean a couple of different things. I know I have a lot of team members that I have told, or a lot of leaders that I tell to run their report, their entire group report on the last day of every month to set a reminder, including make sure you add the columns for phone number, email, and their full mailing address. That way, should they roll off, you can check that the following day in your performance tab, and you can make a note as to when they would be eligible to come back. Something I like to do in my phone is I have my team members all listed in my phone in my contacts. However, once they term, I will go back in and edit their contact. So before their first name, I use the word TERM. And then in the company name, I put the month that they actually termed, so that later I can do a search through my phone and see who would be eligible to come back and when to reinstate. Action planning. What are the key things that I need to do? Well, there's two things. What will I start doing? What will I stop doing? Well, first of all, I don't think you're going to stop doing a whole lot. This is when you're building, so you're actually going to be working more than less. And that is the reality. My first couple of years in the business, I worked far harder than I do now. And that's just kind of how it's set to do. You know, I have a larger group. I sell more than I ever have. But honestly, I put in a lot less time working the business than I did my first couple of years. So your first couple of years, if you're in this to really make a business out of it and your life allows you to, that's when you're going to invest the maximum amount of time and effort. If you are dealing with full-time jobs, family circumstances, other things, it may take you a little longer, and that's okay. And if you're struggling to fit everything in and figure out how to make everything work so you can work your business, then those are conversations you should be having with your upline. So we can help you with that. One of the important things I tell people is the first 2 weeks of every month, I highly recommend that you're front-loading your calendar with your key business. That means that's when you're trying to get your bookings in. That's when you're doing your follow-up. That's when you're working with your customers, you're making your deliveries. You try to do everything as much as possible the first 2 weeks of the month. The last 2 weeks of the month is when you spend your time with your team members, doing launch parties, doing coaching calls, having team get-togethers to make scent samples, whatever that might look like for you. And again, when you have one team member, two team members, it may not be as challenging, but you are going to grow and your team is going to get bigger. So if you can get in the habit of doing your best to work your personal business the first 2 weeks and helping your team the last 2 weeks, and it's not exclusive, I just mean trying when you have opportunities to do so, then that's really going to be a great foundation and a great system you can start now that's going to help you as you continue to grow. Your primary focus should definitely be to get your 500 PRV in every single month. That way you get paid on your leadership, meaning those that are underneath you. If you don't hit it every month, that's not uncommon when you first promote and you first start. And don't think about right now in the moment. Your goal should be thinking forward. So if you don't hit it one month, pick yourself up and you work towards hitting it the following month, and so forth. Because as long as you're making effort, you will find that things will come together. So 500 a month, and then you want to try to add 1 to 2 new team members a month. For some of you, I know that sounds like a lot, but if you're not asking, you're not going to add the team members. If you're asking and you still don't feel like you're getting the team members, then you need to be asking more. And that is a reality that you do need to understand. Just because you ask 3 people over the course of a month, odds are slim that probably any of them are going to join. I can do an event and talk to 25 people about joining the business, and I'll be lucky to get 1 out of those 25. Really good conversations about joining the business. So it is a numbers game. And if you're not growing, ask yourself, how often am I asking and sharing the business opportunity? And the reality is, in most cases, when I'm doing my coaching calls in this area, people are not asking enough. So keep asking. I train my new team members 2 things. Number 1, whenever you're out and about, you ask people, do you have a Scentsy consultant that takes good care of you? And when they say no, bam, you're going to share your marketing material and you're going to let them know you want to be their Scentsy lady or their Scentsy man. And secondly, whenever you're handing over an order, whether it's to your host, to a customer, to your neighbor, the next thing you're going to say is, hey, if you or anybody you know is looking for a new hobby or part-time or full-time income, I'd love to have them on my team. And I also do a referral. So if you have anybody that joins my team, I have a special referral prize for you as well. So those are 2 things you want to be saying on a regular basis and training your team to do the same. You definitely want to have independent leaders. I know many of you are part of the Facebook group. You see the same things I see, where people ask the same questions over and over again. Now, there are some that we know have probably legitimate learning disabilities, and so maybe they need a little extra help. There are some that might be in a moment where they're like, I should know this answer, but I'm driving down the highway, my customer just called me, I'm walking into the home party, and I forgot to look. We all have those moments. But there's also a lot of individuals who truly forget that they are a business owner and that this is their business to work. And therefore, if they want to be successful, they have to know where to find the answers, and they need to be looking for the answers. So when you run into those situations, you need to decide, okay, how do you think it should be handled? Should I just post the answer? In some cases, that might be true. If they send you a text message wanting to know how much the warmer of the month is, should you just tell them? Or should you let them know where they can find that information? And you need to determine that situation and those circumstances, which is going to help them be an independent leader. And what have you decided is the best course of action with this individual? Because, you know, sometimes you've got one specific one and you need to think about that. And there are times when you literally have to say, I'm not trying to be mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but as your leader, I want to do the best I can to help you so you can be a great leader. Therefore, I am showing you where to find this information instead of just telling you what the answers are. Sometimes you have to have that conversation. And I will tell you this too. How have you attempted to solve this problem so far? You are going to have circumstances and issues. Not everybody's going to like everybody. Some people are not going to like you, and you're not going to like some of them. And you have to really, really, this is a hard one for a lot of women specifically, because we have more emotions involved typically in relationships. And the reality is women often breeds drama. Let's just be real. It really does. This is where you have to know your stewardship. Let me give you a couple of examples. When I have someone who calls me and says, XYZ consultant is going in to my groomer's office and they're picking up my catalogs and putting theirs in. You need to tell them to stop that. Okay, well, here's the reality. It's not in my stewardship to tell them to stop that. Is it okay? Of course not. Is it good business practices? Of course not. But here's the reality. By me getting involved in that situation is not being a good leader. In fact, then I'm causing more problems instead of helping solve them. The reality is that is not something as a leader you should be involved in. And I would tell that consultant, keep taking your stuff in if you'd like, talk to the business owner about it. You know, that's who you bring it up with. You need to handle the situation in that manner. But it's not something as a leader that you would get involved with. Commonly hear this, such and such is stealing my customers. Well, here's the reality. No one steals customers. Now, some might go about some different tactics and try to undercut or do this or do that. But do you really think they're going to stay in business long term? They're not. And as, again, a leader, it's not for you to butt in that situation. If someone has blocked someone else or whatever, none of that is a part of your stewardship. Your focus should be how to help them book parties, how to help them sponsor, how to become a better leader. Those are the type of activities that you should be spending your time with. So when they come to you with stuff that's outside of your stewardship, you need to say things like, you know what, that is horrible. I'm sorry to hear that that's happening to you. And the reality is, as your leader, that's not for me to be a part of. So let's focus on what we can do to get your name out there, and we can help you market your business in a different way and in another way so that you can be successful. Because down the road, consultants who behave that way and do such things, they're not successful and they don't stay in business long. That's what you do as a leader. If you're struggling in those areas, if some of these circumstances and situations come up and you don't know how to handle them, go to your upline and let them assist you. If your upline's part of the drama, you have more upline. I mean, you can go all the way up, including my sponsor and Superstar Director, Diane Dreyer, and there's even more of a ladder. So if for some reason you don't want to come to me, you are never out of people you can go to get support. The quicker you learn this lesson of stewardship, the better it's going to be for your business. Falling stars. Now remember, these are the people who are struggling, who are putting their orders in every third month, who are constantly moping about their business not being successful. This is where you ask them, why did you join? Or if they're reinstates, one of the things I ask my reinstates is, why weren't you successful last time? What got in the way? Because we want to address those things. Ask them what's realistic. You know, I can't tell you how many times people compare their situations to other people. Well, such and such just joined and she just sponsored 3 team members. I've been a consultant for 2 years and I've got 1. Well, here's the reality. You don't know their dynamics. They may have come from another direct selling company. They may work in an office building with 700 people. You don't know their situation and everything they have versus what may be real for you. If you've been a stay-at-home mom and you're in the house and you're lucky to go out to the grocery store once a week and you're overwhelmed with whatever situations, then that obviously looks a little different than what that person might be exposed to and the opportunities that they have. So you need to really have those open conversations to help them be realistic with what is real and help them develop a plan. And that's where we're going to talk about some of the forms I'm going to show you where to find. If you're not using them, you need to be using them. And that's why we like to break it down daily, weekly, so they can see success and find success. We kind of talked about this already, encouraging and don't coddle. You know, when someone, wants to tell me, oh, it's been so hard because I've been sick or my grandma's been sick, of course I feel terrible. I mean, I don't want their grandma to be sick or whatever their situation is. But at the same time, those of you that know me personally know I have a daughter who has significant medical needs. And that has yet to prevent me from working my business, even under the worst and most horrible of circumstances that she's gone through. So the reality is coddling them is not going to help them. Instead, encouraging them and helping them find a way they can work their business under any and all circumstances. Meet them where they're at and move forward based on their feedback. If this person really is poisonous or they really are a cancer or a negative Nelly and they're not providing anything positive to your team or to your group, or you feel like they're toxic, sometimes we do have to let them go. Or maybe sometimes you're not the best fit. That does not happen very often. But it is going to happen occasionally, and don't feel responsible or guilty for that. The only person you're responsible for are your actions and what you choose to do with them. So that's how you've got to think about that sort of thing too. Again, I see people post, I must be terrible because I had 3 team members and now I have 1. That has no impact on you if, as a leader, you were doing your part and like the things that we've discussed. If you were doing those things and they decided not to work the business, then that's on them. Now, have we all been perfect leaders? Have we all been perfect sponsors? Of course not. I've blown it. You're going to blow it. It's going to happen. So the reality is, start where you are and move forward and work with your team members on an individual basis on how you can help them have a positive experience with Sensi. Here's your resources that if you're not using already, I want to make sure you know exist. The daily action sheet, again, these can be found in your workstation. You can search these by name. The consultant action plan worksheet, and there's also a leader action plan worksheet. The make a plan document has several pieces to it, which will actually help you do your long-term planning. And we have different compensation plan overviews, those step-by-step pieces that I was telling you. Instead of looking at the big picture, in your case, you want to be looking at what I need to do to get from lead to star consultant. And they have those compensation plan overviews available at all ranks. The Daily Power Hour document is a fantastic document for both you and your team members who struggle with how to fit everything in or with time management. So that is, again, another document that you should be sharing with your team and you should probably be utilizing as well. On the Leaders Moving Up group, there is a document in the file section called Leadership Mentor Guide. And the sooner you can start this, the better. You can print these off, and as you add new team members, you can then fill this out, which is going to help you lead them and know what you've discussed and what you haven't discussed with them. So this is a good document. It's kind of dated in the sense I think it has the old logo and such, so if some of you want to recreate it, that would be great too. Otherwise, it works just fine. And of course, we have the, oops, sorry, I just messed that up. We have the Moving Up groups as well. Let me get this back here. There we go. We have the Moving Up groups. And those are specific groups that are going to help your team members when they're new consultants. We focus on new consultant tasks. Certified is more around building a team or the kind of thing they need to be doing to get team members. And then, of course, lead and above. So those are also resources that you want to be sure that your team members are utilizing as well. So I hope this helps. This certainly doesn't encompass anything and everything, but I do think if you can master the majority of the things that we've discussed in this training, you're going to find not only is your team going to be more successful, but leading is going to become a lot easier for you, and you're going to have a better opportunity of growing your business and continuing up the ladder. So with that, we are going to end this training. I'm just going to stop this here. I'm not going to stop the share, but hold on one second.